What is up, everybody? My name is Kubits, and I'm here bringing you a Skyrim mod compilation for how to make your game more populated. This is a compilation video that's going to feature a variety of different NPC mods, some of which voiced, some of which just aesthetic, all of which will help your game have a more busy vibe to it. If your walks between cities are starting to get lonely, if the tavern just isn't as fun with only 2 people, or if you wish Skyrim had a little bit more conflict and personality, all of these mods are really excellent to add to your load order. Now, keep in mind that a lot of these mods are very taxing on your PC. Generally speaking, if your PC can run Skyrim pretty well, then using 1 or 2 of these won't hurt you too much. However, using all of them together is not advised. It is totally doable, but having a ton of NPCs walking around is just asking for bugs and crashes. Not to mention the fact that your FPS will definitely be lowered significantly. If you have an ultra powerful PC, then this shouldn't be an issue. But if your PC is more of an average Joe, then I recommend only picking a handful of these and sticking with that. The first mod that I'm going to feature is probably one of the best Skyrim mods to date. Interesting NPCs features over 250 uniquely voiced non-player characters. Some of these characters are available to have long conversations with. Others you'll only see for a short period of time while completing a quest, but some can become your companions and feature a huge variety of dialogue options. Generally speaking, this mod is pretty lore friendly. In fact, a lot of the NPCs will actually help develop the world's lore even more. A huge complaint about the vanilla game is that all of the NPCs are lifeless and unlikable. With interesting NPCs, you'll certainly come across unlikable NPCs, but you'll also come across very charming NPCs. Many of these NPCs have fleshed out backstories and very quirky character traits.
The mill owner lives on the other side of the road. I suggest you leave.
You're in luck. I reckon I've killed more men than there are minutes in a day.
When I first installed this mod and I was exploring Skyrim, it really made me want to re-explore all of the areas I've already been in. It was such a refreshing change from the boring old, repeating phrases of the vanilla NPCs. It really helped the game come alive. A lot of the quests even got me a little bit emotional. What it comes down to is the fact that the dialogue is really well written. Another neat feature about this mod is that the choices of dialogue that you have are actually pretty hilarious. Skyrim's dialogue options are pretty standard and pretty basic, but the cool thing about interesting NPCs is that it usually offers you a spectrum of different responses. You can be kind, you can be brash, you can be snarky. It reminded me a lot of Dragon Age. And one of the best things about this mod is that it's continually being updated. For many years, the mod author has kept up with adding new NPCs and tweaking quests. Not only does this mod add more NPCs all around the world, but it adds really good voice acting, interactive quest lines, and actually gives Skyrim some personality.
I am not here to fulfill your desire for pain, or free you from your wretched existence. At least, not today.
Let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Perhaps you need your boots shined, or your tunic washed, or need a letter delivered?
The next mod recommendation that I have for you is called INCONSEQUENTIAL NPCs. This is a very similar mod to Interesting NPCs, except it does just about the exact opposite. Instead of NPCs that have a lot of depth, that really want to engage in conversations with you, that ask you for help on quests, you get a bunch of NPCs that don't give a crap about you. NPCs that just want to go about their business. A lot of the NPCs that this mod adds are voiced, but even though they are, they're not really interested in engaging with you. Here is one new example that has recently been added into the mod. Outside of Windhelm, the guards will harass you if you're an Argonian in Khajiit. And in fact, they'll try to escort you out of the city. This fits in really well with the lore that's been established in the game. For every other race, it'll just include a couple lines about how the beast races aren't allowed inside.
Folks, hold it there, Khajiit. Your kind are not allowed into the city. It's the law here. You'll have to come with me.
Most of the NPCs are probably just going to be loitering around. Some of the NPCs are just going to show up at the inn at night. But every once in a while, you come across an NPC that is really interesting.
Good citizens of Solitude and visitors to our fair city from far and near. By lawful decree of our Jarl, clan feuds and personal duels are henceforth banned within the walls of Solitude.
Ripple, the mod author, describes this mod as a complement to 3D NPCs. While 3D NPCs fills the world with blasts of personality, inconsequential NPCs fills in the gaps with a sprinkling of something different. Overall, I highly recommend these mods if you don't have them installed already. But keep in mind, installing both of them will add significantly more NPCs to the game. The third mod that I recommend is called Expanded Towns and Cities. At first glance, this appears to be a mod that only shakes up the designs of the settlements, but actually it offers a lot more than that. Yes, it adds lots of buildings, it adds lots of structures, but in addition to that, it also adds more NPCs. It'll add a couple extra merchants, maybe a random sailor. It makes most of the towns look like there aren't just 7 people living there. I highly recommend this mod because not only does it add a couple extra NPCs in each little town, but it also adds a lot more houses and structures. So if you're already using mods that add NPCs, it doesn't look as off because they're surrounded only by 5 different huts. Now there are a lot more buildings, and it makes sense that there are more NPCs in the town. Word of caution though, this is obviously going to be a performance hit, and if you're using too many NPC mods, it's extremely likely that nav meshing is not going to work perfectly well. But other than that, I definitely recommend this mod. Next up, we have WARZONES. Talk about performance hit. Despite being more suited to high-end PCs, and also being a little bit buggy here and there, this mod is actually extremely cool. It's been on the Nexus for many years now, and it offers up something that I think everybody really wanted to see when they played the game for the first time. You probably thought it was really silly how, when you traveled around Skyrim, NPCs would constantly be talking about the war and how hard it was. Well, what war? You never really saw any battles, there were a handful when you played through the quest line, but for a province experiencing a civil war, there's a surprising amount of peace as you walk from town to town. WARZONES changes that in a big way. This mod adds several pre-planned battle areas, and in addition, random encounters throughout the world. So as you're taking the path from Whiterun to Morthal, it's possible that you might see a battle in the field beside you. A really nice feature is that you can tweak the options, so you can change the amount of enemies that will spawn, you can choose the type of enemies that will spawn, and how frequently you come across fighters. Usually, it'll be a conflict between Stormcloaks and Imperials, but occasionally creatures will also find their way into the mix. Whether you just want to see more conflict, or if you're playing a Stormcloak or Imperial yourself, this mod adds a lot more military NPCs into the game. Oftentimes, it will also alter some locations, so you will have a lot more camps and a lot more battlegrounds. I recommend this mod, but with caution, sometimes it does crash my PC, and although it certainly isn't great, it's not a complete piece of poo, so just forewarning on that. My next mod recommendation is Immersive Patrols. This is an insanely popular mod. Part of why it's insanely popular is because it's basically script-free. That means that it's really easy to install and uninstall. It also generally doesn't have a lot of conflict. What this mod does is it adds patrols from different factions. It will add things like Dawnguard patrols, travelers, merchants, bandits, Stormcloaks, and Imperials. It even includes a couple battles and AI that will try to attack and gain control of different forts. For that reason, I would not necessarily recommend using Immersive Patrols and WARZONES at the same time. Obviously, it's up to you if you want to do that, but if you install both of them, then you'll probably have a lot of encounters all the time. And maybe that's what you're going for, but oftentimes that can lead to a lot of crashing and a lot of bugs. Pretty simply, if you thought that the paths were too empty and also too peaceful, then I definitely recommend giving this mod a try, because it basically just uses the NPCs that already exist in the game, except leads them around in different locations. A mod that can work with Immersive Patrols and is also very similar is Organized Bandits in Skyrim. This mod adds a lot more encounters with bandits on the road. Not only that, but it actually creates sort of a faction system with the bandits that do exist. There will be bandits that are just drug addicts. There will be bandits that are decked out in dragon bones. And there will be bandits that are only mages. What it achieves is almost a gang-like system. This mod also features some lore background on the types of groups that you will encounter. And what's really neat about this mod is that it's really good about randomizing the appearance of the bandits. So instead of just encountering a bunch of people wearing fur with surprisingly similar faces, the bandits you encounter will feel a lot more unique. This means that you have to use different tactics depending on the bandit group that you encounter. And of course, things like location are randomized. This mod also adds a lot of loot to these bandits, so a fun bonus of killing them is that you get tons of cool stuff. This mod is very similar to Immersive Patrols, except it focuses primarily on bandits. The last 3 mods that I'm going to feature are made by different mod authors, but are all extremely similar. Populated cities, populated lands, roads, and paths, and populated prisons. What all of these mods do is add very generic NPCs to different areas in the game. If you thought that towns were still too empty, or if you wanted even more people on the road, and you just felt kinda lonely in jail, then all of these mods will definitely tickle your fancy. What makes these mods different from the others is that it really is mainly an aesthetic thing. All of these NPCs are basically vanilla NPCs. All of the characters that you'll encounter in towns, you can't really interact with them. So if you just wanted more commoners walking around, more prisoners in cells, or just more merchants traveling the road, then that is basically what this mod does. Everyone has their own preference for how they want to make the game more populated. Some people like voiced NPCs that have a lot of personality and dialogue. Other people just want to see more townspeople, and that's about it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend using all of these mods, but it's very likely you'll experience bugs, and your frame rate will certainly be very low. What I recommend most is choosing a handful of these and customizing exactly what you're looking for. If you only use 3 at a time, they usually play pretty nice with each other. And my final mod recommendation for this video doesn't actually have anything to do with populating Skyrim more. It's called Common Clothes. Common Clothes is a mod that adds a variety of different outfits for you, but also there's an option on the mod page to download an add-on that will basically diversify the amount of outfits that NPCs can wear. The reason for doing this, of course, is because there's only a limited amount of clothing items that exist within the base game, and so if you have more than a couple of these mods, you'll probably run into people that have the same outfits all the time. There are only so many women you can see with brown dresses, you know? And on top of that, it actually diversifies the armor as well. This mod is basically just for civilians and a handful of armored opponents, but I really recommend this mod because not only do I think that the mashups are really good, but it makes the NPCs look a little bit less repetitive and therefore makes the game just a little bit more immersive. Those are all the mods that I have for now. Keep in mind that there are plenty of different population mods out there. In fact, so many that I would probably have to make like an hour-long video to cover all of them. I primarily wanted to pick out the ones that I have used extensively and I know that I like a lot. If you have any recommendations for me or other people, then I'd love to hear them in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more mod compilations, then please do subscribe. And you know, if you want to like the video, that would be cool. I also have a mod spotlight for Dawn of Skyrim, another city overhaul mod, and if you also play Fallout, you can check out my video on how to make survival mode fun again. The links to these mods are all in the description, and please make sure that if you enjoy any of these, that you endorse them on the mod page. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.